All right. Welcome back to another episode of Two Plain Sports. Thank you guys all for watching the Overreaction Monday video. That one was fun to talk about the TCU game. And it's been great to see all the comments. Make sure you go back, watch it, leave us your thoughts on how the game went. And then we have a couple things that we discussed that we'd love to hear your thoughts about at the end of the video. So make sure you go check that out. Before we get into today's video, make sure you're hitting that subscribe button and the like button. It helps us out a lot. We really appreciate it when we see new subscribers join the community. And obviously, it's awesome to see all the likes and hopefully not too many thumbs down whenever the videos roll out. But let's get into it. For today's video, we're going to talk about the game this weekend, which is not very
My
exciting.
favorite weekend of the year. It's the most less stress weekend of the football season.
Essentially a bye week for our starters, but it's against Kansas in Lawrence, so we're gonna play at a high school stadium essentially with less than a high school crowd. Like a Texas high school probably gets more attendance than these guys do.
Oh,
So
definitely.
luckily they're a basketball school. We can
Stick
talk
to
about it when we get to
basketball.
basketball season. But so to give you guys just an idea of the Kansas football team right now. Their quarterback has a total of 939 yards passing, 55% completion, so not great. 5 touchdowns, 4 picks, and has been sacked 7 times. And then he's also their second leading rusher with 305 yards. Their leading rusher has just 13 more yards on 4 more attempts. Really, this is not going to be a very pretty game. Honestly, I feel like unless you're a hardcore fan or you want to watch to talk about the whole game like us, then most people will probably be tuned out by halftime.
I mean, I'll
So
watch every snap of this game just because I watch every snap of every OU game. But this week, this is like it's just a hard one to preview. It's a hard one to do anything about, really, just because you know that the outcome's just going to be ugly. Kansas is not a very good football program, as we know. It should be fun for
yeah,
us.
yeah, definitely. And I think my prediction is Caleb's going to play the whole first half. I think you kind of feel the same way. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you brought something up yesterday and today before we started recording. What is going to happen once we bring in second team? Is it
In
gonna
my
be
in, in
Ralph
my
Rucker or is it
in
gonna be
my
Spencer
opinion, it's the
Rattler?
only interesting thing of this whole game for me is Lincoln's in a weird spot just because obviously Spencer Rattler was the guy. He was the Heisman favorite, all this and this. And then fast forward 8 weeks into the season, and he is now reduced to getting garbage minutes against Kansas when the Sooners are up big. I wonder if it's like, if Lincoln feels weird doing it because obviously he was the Heisman favorite. He was that guy, and now he's reduced to playing garbage backup time against Kansas. So I do wonder if I think you have to play him just because at the end of the day he is a second stringer now. I mean, it sucks for him, but at the end of the day, that's what he is. I'm sure he didn't envision his senior career ever ending up where he's getting garbage time against Kansas is the only playing time he's getting, but it's the way it goes sometimes. Most importantly, I think it's important for Oklahoma to play him because, if Caleb, God for knock on wood, we don't want to see it happen, but if he for some reason goes down, an injury, or if he starts playing poorly, there's a bunch of variables in college football. If Spencer gets his number called, you don't want him coming off just completely cold. I mean, game reps are still game reps, no matter who the opponent is. But yeah, it's just going to be a weird thing to see Spencer Rattler out there. Like if I told you before the season started, if Oklahoma's beating Kansas 42-6 or ever in the third quarter and Spencer Rattler's playing, you're going to be like, what the hell are we doing? You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
it's just a weird way the season has gone.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong whatsoever. I agree with you. I think it's got to be Spencer, and then Ralph will come in the fourth quarter. But well, for multiple reasons, but one of them being what you mentioned, like you got to put him out there. Lincoln's in a strange situation, but reps are reps. Anything can happen in football. Bad games happen, obviously. So it's always good to keep them ready and give them those game reps or real game reps even if it's against Kansas. And at the end of the day, it also benefits Spencer to get some time out there because he will get to play on TV, kind of, and people are going to at least watch him. It'll be, I think, once Spencer comes in the game, you'll see it maybe trending on Twitter. Probably people might cover it a little bit more because it's not an exciting game whatsoever. But him coming on the field is going to be a story at the end of the day. And it also kind of puts him in a position where teams that, depending on what he does at the end of the year, because it seems like from what his dad has said, and from how things have been, kind of worked over the last couple of weeks, is he's staying at Oklahoma at least until the end of the year. Now this is just going to be tape on, for the school that he transfers to or for pro scouts, depending on his route.
And it's just a good look for him to stick it out, be a supportive teammate still, be as good as he can. I unfortunately, he like, as you mentioned, he has to transfer at the end of the season if things keep going the way that they are with Caleb Williams playing as dominant as he is, because then he's going to go into next season, no doubt the guy. And, then, that we can talk about that in the offseason too, but that's going to come down to Spencer Rattler. Is he going to just make the jump right now? Or I think he's better off transferring, putting more tape. But we'll see. But yeah, in my opinion, that's the only thing interesting about this game is when Spencer plays and how much does he play. I also wonder if, yes, it is because it is Kansas, if we see him even before the game gets garbage, like say it's 21-0, whatever, which is not when you pull your starters, but then we give Spencer a drive and then back to it's just like we could see some weird stuff this week.
Yeah, I wonder. I doubt it. It's just kind of coming off the top of my head. Lincoln is so smart. He has to have a play, and Joe Clapp mentioned it in his breakdown right after OU Texas. Lincoln's probably come up with a couple plays where he's got both quarterbacks on the field, and it's some sort of trick play that gets Spencer throwing the ball downfield.
I 100% agree with that, but I don't think you bust that out against Kansas.
Yeah.
I think you save something like that for, a college football playoff game or something, because you put it on tape against Kansas and it hits a huge bomb homer. Alabama, Georgia, whoever it is, they're watching, they're going to see that tape and be like, okay, if Spencer Rattler's on the field, they're going to try this, I absolutely agree that there's a play in the playbook where that something is, or it's being drawn up. But this is not the week to bust something like that out.
Yeah, no, 100%. And then let's go to the defensive side of the ball. And then before we wrap up today and after the defense, I kind of want to get some of your thoughts on, Spencer's post-Sooner career, and then we'll mention today's big recruitment get. So talking about the defense right now, something you mentioned earlier offline was players that we could probably expect not to play. I mean, you mentioned it, and we mentioned it in the last video. Our secondary is pretty beat up right now. Cordell, DTY still hasn't come back, and then DJ Woody and DJ. So I agreed with you when you said it, and I don't expect those guys to come back and play. Maybe they will let DJ play, just because if he does clear concussion protocol, might as well let him come back and play. Yeah. It's not like an injury. It's not like a hamstring or something where physical play could potentially aggravate it. So that's the only guy I would expect to come back, but I wouldn't expect to see Woody or DTY, Redmond. I think those guys are coming back. If not next week, post-bye week.
He's the only one, and I don't expect to see, just because of where the bye week is. It's Kansas this week, then Tech. I honestly expect Oklahoma to roll the dice. Obviously, this week's pretty safe, and then I think they're going to roll the dice on. We're probably going to be Tech, even with these short. I don't envision seeing all those guys, DTY, Redmond, Woody, till that Baylor game on the 13th of November. So about a little less than a month from now, but. It's just, I don't think it makes sense to put anybody who's even kind of, especially this week, it makes absolutely zero sense to put anybody out there against Kansas. No offense to Kansas, but they have to even know that they're not a football school. It's not a fair fight. So there's no reason in putting out some banged up dude out there and then him, ended up hurting it for the season, and you don't have him for the meaningful games.
Yeah, no, for sure. And even with our beat up secondary, I mean, the talent we have is still good. Latrell McCutcheon will probably get a start under his belt. We'll see Billy Bowman hopefully get back in his true position at slot
Josh
consistently
Eaton will
during his
probably get more
game.
play time.
Eaton,
Yeah, it'll
Jaden
be
Davis, like
yeah.
they're still good. Obviously, Jaden Davis, I think, is the one that's the most suspect. He did get burned a lot during OU Texas, but this will be a good game to get him reps.
It's a good
Obviously,
confidence
boost his
builder. Yeah, hopefully.
confidence.
Yeah.
So I think that it'll be fun to watch him at the
I
end of
don't
the
even
day.
know what the spread is on this week, but since we always pick the spread, whatever it is, I'm taking Oklahoma.
Let me double check it for
And then I
you.
don't know what it is. It's probably 37.5 or some shit, or 40
Honestly,
and a half.
there's some games where there's not even a spread to bet on, and I bet this is one of them. Actually, it's 38 and a half.
Yeah, I'm taking it.
And the over under 67 and a half. So we're probably going to be covering that by ourselves, like we did versus Western Carolina. So
I don't know if we're gonna hang 70 on Kansas, but we'll see.
And we got 52 last week on a pretty decent TCU team.
That's true. The only thing I wonder is I at some point when pretty much when you pull the starters up, you're not trying to score as much, but with Spencer, maybe they will still be trying to score. We'll see. We'll see how it plays out.
Yeah. And I think that really for the defense, there's not many big stories for this week. Most of them probably won't play very long. It will be interesting to see though.
At the beginning of this, it's a hard week to preview.
Yeah, and something that will be interesting before we wrap up the preview talk is Jamal Farooq hasn't played one snap at all this season, and I know you were huge on him during the offseason. You called him the best wide receiver we're going to see at OU under Caleb Williams' reign as QB1 at Oklahoma. So I wonder if he'll get to play a little bit during this game. Hopefully we get to see him. I'm not sure why he hasn't taken a snap because we've seen guys that, we believe are not as talented as him, but this guy, Jamal Farooq, could finally get some playing time during Kansas.
Hopefully,
and it'll be exciting to see.
Let's see it. Yeah. Why not? Why not? Honestly, like everybody get out there. Hopefully at the end of the game with Spencer Rattler, not Spencer, it'll be Ralph Rucker, whatever it's in. Throw it to Cody Jackson and Jamal Farooq, and that's a sign that the game went exactly how we wanted it to go.
Yeah.
Weatherman Jay back there running it. Potentially another interesting storyline. Could we see Marcus Major this weekend?
I would bet so. It'll be a good first game back, get him back into playing shape. Could be like a duel. We'll start the first half with Kennedy and Eric, our RB1 and 2. And the second half will just be all Weatherman Jay and Marcus Major, so that Marcus can get his legs back under him and get him into full football condition. Because if he does need to play later in the season versus those, our last 3 games are going to be tough versus Baylor, versus Iowa State, versus Oklahoma State. So, I believe he'll play at least definitely second half. I would bet there's no way Kennedy plays past the second quarter. No. You don't want to risk any sort of freak injury.
And honestly, probably not Gray either. That's why at some point it's going to go to the Weatherman Jay, Marcus Major, or Ethan Hudson show. We'll see.
Yeah.
I would like to see Marcus Major get some carries, though, for sure. I agree with you.
I would bet he gets 15 carries this week.
That would be awesome
during the third and fourth quarter, just because we're going to be running the ball a lot too, just to get the game to be over with. If it is as big of a blowout as we all expect it to be. But do you have any final thoughts on this week's game before we go to the last few minutes here?
Interesting tidbit that you said you showed me on Twitter yesterday. So if Oklahoma wins this game, I'm gonna say if, because I don't want to, whatever. If Oklahoma wins this game, isn't it? Didn't you say it's the first time we're 8-0 since 2004?
Yes. So that's something we mentioned last
tidbit. Yeah.
Something we mentioned in the last video. We weren't sure how long it has been since this kind of season for Oklahoma. So it's been,
that's what it is.
17 years? Yeah. Which is crazy to think, because I would say we've been really good since the national championship. We had some ups and downs, a couple years there, but you would think we would have been 8-0 at some point, but no, 2004, last time.
And now we'll keep an eye on that as we go forward too. So going to Texas Tech, if we win that game, how long has it been since 9-0, 10-0, so on and so on. So interesting thing to keep an eye on.
Definitely. So going back to the main storylines, obviously with Spencer, you mentioned do you believe he's going to transfer? I've been thinking a lot about it, and you and I have talked about it, in our conversations. Do you think he'll transfer? Do you actually believe transferring to a different university is his best route? And then what college Name like 3 colleges you think are likely
At
to try to pick
season's
him.
end, I think him transferring is the smartest decision for his career, unfortunately, because I'm a huge Spencer guy. And I'm going to throw out a school here, and it's going to sound wild, but I think it's legit. Or a legitimate possibility. Clemson.
Honestly, yeah. I didn't think of them.
Clemson.
So I agree with you. I think he's got to transfer, but he's got to transfer to a good school where he's got
I
a chance of
I
winning
I,
and
I
looking good.
agree, and
So Clemson's the best opportunity
I think
because
he's night and day better than DJ Ugalele, whatever his name is. And Clemson, it's Clemson still. They're going to land some 4 or 5 stars all around him. That, in my opinion, is the best chance for him to resurrect his career. I would say Clemson, which I don't know if I would hate to see it or love to see it because that's kind of scary. Because I imagine just a pissed off Spencer playing us in a playoff. That's how it's going to play out if he goes to Clemson, and then I can just see him lighting us up, and yeah, that's a nightmare situation. Clemson makes sense to me. It obviously makes sense to me. They're a team on the rise. I think he's from that Phoenix, Tempe area. Makes a lot of sense to go home. And then, shoot, man, like Iowa, Penn State, something like that makes a lot of sense to me too.
yeah. So the way I thought, I never considered Clemson, but the schools I thought he should transfer to are Iowa because their quarterback situation just
It's
sucks. Like
awful.
that team is
Yeah.
good, but they can't throw the ball. The other school is LSU. I mean, we won't have Go Tigers anymore down there in the Bayou, but I mean, their team, LSU has consistently good recruiting. So I mean, maybe he can turn them around and at least make them somewhat relevant again. And
Yeah.
then I never considered Clemson, but that is actually a really good thought
It
because
makes a lot of sense.
Dabo is a smart coach. Like this is just a bad season for them. I mean, we had one, last year it wasn't great. Not as bad as how they're looking down in Clemson, but I mean,
And if Clemson
might as
can
well.
protect him, which I'm sure they can get plenty of 4 or 5 star offensive linemen. If they can keep him upright, he can make them look really good. And as I mentioned before, I think he's night and day better than DJ Ugalele. I think DJ Ugalele is a failed experiment out there, but we'll see.
Yeah, or at
How it
least put him
goes.
in a QB competition at the worst, and then I think I agree with you. Spencer should be able to beat him out, but I mean, it would only benefit the Clemson program and both quarterbacks. So hopefully it happened. Hopefully Spencer's career, whatever the next stage is a positive one for him. But yeah, just wanted to get your thoughts on that. And then last thing before we wrap it up today, earlier today, the Sooners added to their really good 2022 class.
Huge
And
kid.
Gentry Williams, Tulsa product out of Booker T. Washington High School. If you don't follow us on Twitter, go follow us on Twitter. But he is a 2-sport athlete, both track and football. He runs a 4.340 at the age of 18, 17 or 18. Not sure when his birthday is. Still pretty young, so he could get a lot faster. And he's going, I believe, and I mentioned it whenever we did our Who Dat on Billy Bowman, and because we were kind of projecting the future for Billy. Now that we have confirmed Gentry, him, Latrell, and Billy are going to transform that pass coverage for Alex Grinch's defense. Because when you and I both agree, Billy Bowman is a great talent. Latrell McCutcheon obviously is getting a lot of playing time, so Alex Grinch believes in him, and he'll get better. Both of those guys we already have will get better, and Gentry is just going to add to that arsenal that he has in the defensive back room.
It's been a really damn good 60 hours, 60 whatever hours for Alex Grinch and the defense over there because not long it was really less than 72 hours ago for sure. They landed the Gabriel Brownlow Dindy commit, and it's that's a good couple days stretch there for our defense. I'm very excited for it. I agree with you. I think Gentry Williams has all the capabilities to help transform this defense, make it even better than what's already been growing a little bit. But man, good couple days there for Sooner recruiting.
Yeah. So Gabe's commitment was actually about a week ago, but I mean, great 2 weeks at least. Yeah. Cause he committed on the Tuesday after OU Texas. So, I mean, 2 weeks, 2 wins, two top 50 recruits in the 2022 class. And then we still have, so we've been crystal ball to Hero Canoe, defensive lineman.
He was in Norman this weekend.
Also in 22. Yeah, he was in Norman this weekend. And from what has been written about his visit, and from what he's posting on his social media, it looks like he had a great time. He just posted a picture of him in an OU uniform. So, I mean, I believe, recruits go to visits all the time, but they don't always post pictures
Yeah,
of them in uniforms unless it's a place they enjoyed and could see themselves being in.
absolutely.
So Canoe's definitely got to look out for, and then another in-state product in Chris McClellan. So this defensive
And
class next year is going to
Gentry's
be
teammate
top
with
notch.
McAtee's, although he's not a defensive back or defensive player, but still, I mean, yeah, there's a lot to look out for, and I'm sure going into the summer months when we're kind of in that dead zone again, we'll be doing more hoodats on these kids. So look out for that, and whatever
Yep,
6 months from now, whatever.
it'll be fun to watch, and I think this recruiting cycle is a big one because now kids know that they're more than likely going to be competing in the SEC at some point during their Sooner career. And that's something that Steve Wilfong said during the when he was talking about it on CBS Sports HQ. Gentry's got the speed and ability and athleticism to compete with the wide receivers in the SEC and make sure that he's a lockdown corner once we move to that conference. So yeah, I mean, big get like we mentioned, and still a lot more big players to come that seem to be heavy leans for Oklahoma at this point. Hopefully
Big
it continues that way.
And we should absolutely move to 8-0 for the first time since 04. So things are looking up for Oklahoma. It's a good time.
Definitely. Cool. Well, if you made it this far, as always, you're awesome. You're amazing. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, leave your comments. Let us know what you think about this upcoming Kansas game. What's the score going to be? Are we going to cover the 38.5? Are we going to score 100? Who knows? It's possible. We've got a lot of talent out there. They don't. So we'll see. Hopefully it's entertaining enough that we're not just kind of lollygagging out there and letting him score 3 touchdowns, but it'll be a Sooner win at the end of the day, unless something crazy happens.
That's the important part.
So thank you guys for watching, and we will see you next time.